are we going to start talking about Bravo? When are we going to start talking about the Bravo curse? And when are we going to start talking about half the people on Bravo are either under investigation, going to be indicted, or maybe they're going to do it Ashley, marry an old man, get nothing, be living under their means, but I don't think they, well, I don't know. Michael, you heard what he got going on in Africa. I don't know. Michael's comeuppance might be in the pearly gates of heaven or hell, should I say. But let's talk about Wendy, okay? Let's talk about Wendy Osefo. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there's a show called Real Housewives of Potomac, okay? There was a husband and wife duo, Nigerian born, credits. They just were in the Nigerian American parade. Wendy and Eddie Osefo, okay? They came on the scene. Now, I'm not gonna lie. The first season, you know, Wendy had issues with the lace front, but it doesn't matter because she came back with the second season with a boom. She had a bunch of cute kids. They had a beautiful house. Eddie was a successful lawyer, and Wendy had this lifestyle. She did a lot of she worked though. She was an adjunct professor, I think the first Black one in history at one of her universities. She was always on Fox. She was always on MSNBC. Andy loved her. Bravo, eating it up. And now we are looking at another Joe and Teresa Giudice story. Wendy has been fired from her job, of course. But more importantly, I want to know what's going on between her and Eddie, because this to me seems like a Teresa and Joe Giudice thing, right? Why would Eddie, because Eddie was the attorney, and I remember saying this, let me just say this. I remember thinking, he's a tax attorney? I didn't know, or whatever type of attorney, I didn't know that Eddie was such a successful attorney, that he was pulling in 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 million a year. Again, when you look at their lifestyle and you look at the way they did and what they had and the rings and the Hermes and all this other stuff, I was like, I've never heard about Eddie. What cases did he work on? How does he afford his lifestyle? But I suspended it because, you know, I was busy with Simon. And I was like, I don't want to go after a Nigerian man. And y'all think I'm stereotyping, right? And Wendy had her paid appearances. Now we come to see that whatever was going on with Eddie's finances, Wendy's family is talking about, oh my God, Wendy dragged Eddie down. She's from a cursed bloodline. Eddie is probably going to be able to get a slap on the wrist, and Wendy is probably going to be the one that actually gets, if she's found guilty, of going to jail. Because even though this was insurance fraud, if you guys don't know, I'll explain in a second, it was all in Wendy's name. The policies weren't in Wendy's name. And Eddie CC'd her on the emails. Why didn't Eddie go to Neiman Marcus or Saks or whatever and buy the store out, then say the stuff got stolen? Why didn't Eddie buy himself a pinky ring? He could have said that was his ring and then report it stolen. Now, again, they are innocent until proven guilty. But there's 3 things that happened. 1, they reported a bunch of high-end items stolen. The insurance company has the receipts that proved that they bought the items, reported them stolen, and then took them back to the store and got cash refunds. 2, she wore on a premiere the diamond ring that she reported stolen. 3, oh God, 3, they made not just one claim, but they went to 3 separate insurance companies that they had 3 separate policies on, and they reported everything stolen 3 times. So it was a total about $500,000. They're saying they're innocent. I pray to God they're innocent, because if they're not, oof. Oh, God, Eddie might be in, well, he ain't going to be in Diddy's wing of the jail, but this might be something like the Joe and Teresa Giudice, meaning that Joe was the mastermind. Joe signed all the documents. Joe did this. Joe did that. Teresa was getting mortgages and stuff in her name. She signed off on it. But because she signed off on it, you are liable for everything you sign on. And Joe, right? Joe went to jail. And then Teresa, I think, did an even bigger jail time. I might be wrong about that. But she did do a lot of jail time, right? We know they divorced when they got out. And they're in a better place. But by Teresa falling behind Joe, she literally also got the same amount of smoke from the federal government. Let's talk about Eddie. Because you saw, here's the thing. If Joe and Teresa Giudice had never existed, maybe you could get away with like, oh my God, we're so stupid. We didn't know. We was just scamming. The way Kyle's been accused of scamming. How many times Kyle's house been robbed? I think the thing is, though, Teddy's husband owns a security company for the houses that keep getting robbed. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Dorit did it, right? And again, she got robbed the same way. I don't know what happened with that. I just know that she's not under whatever. She's not under arrest, right? Did you see their mugshots? They genuinely look like they caught them coming home drunk, or they woke them up drunk. They look out of their minds. And that's when I was like, oh God, please don't tell me there were any issues. Anyway, if there was no Joe and Teresa, I can understand this happening because, you know, you would never think the federal government would go that hard after RHOP. But you saw Joe and Teresa. You saw Simon Gabodia. You saw all these people, and you still tried to pull off the heist of the century. And get this, the heist of the century was for $500,000 in total for all these little 3 scams that were going at the same time. Don't get me wrong. $500,000 is not a little bit of money, but is $500,000 really enough to get your wife involved? Why was Wendy even in this? Why couldn't Eddie find another way to make money or downsize their life? Eddie was the one doing all the email communications and CCing Wendy into it. So Wendy actually is. This is the mother of your children. Wendy has a career. Wendy did all this stuff. Why did Eddie have Wendy in the middle of any of this? And I'm being dead serious. Has nobody looked at that? The pipeline. What is wrong with patriarchy and women? That at the end of the day, how is Eddie the provider when the way he's a provider is, if these reports are true, running scams to get more money? And this is on top of whatever Real Housewives of Potomac is paying you. I assume Wendy's making at least $1 million a year, hopefully $2 million. She's been on there for a few seasons, hasn't she? I mean, at the end of the day, she was bought on as Candace. She was bought on as Candace's replacement. Not saying she backstabbed Candace, but she was bought on as Candace's replacement, because you know the Real Housewives of Potomac can only have like one dark-skinned person on at the time, maybe 2, but the second one has to be like a sellout, like, you know, Real Housewives of Potomac. So it's like, why would Eddie put Wendy in this situation? I get it. Why would Wendy be dumb enough to sign off? But again, clearly you were following your man. Eddie's the lawyer. I think it looks like Eddie cooked this up. Eddie was the organizer. But if Eddie did all that, why did he need Wendy involved? Why didn't he just do it himself? He's a lawyer. He should have been forward thinking. I feel so bad for Wendy and her family. But also, we need to stop with the Bravo. Is looking broke and people calling you broke and the dumb people that are superficial looking down on you, is that so important that you literally risk your freedom and the mother of your children's freedom? Also, y'all can flex for Bravo for 1 season? And this is the Real Housewives of Potomac. We're not even talking Atlanta money. We're talking Real Housewives of Potomac, a show that I've had lives that have gotten bigger views than Real Housewives of Potomac. And you literally put your... It's a sad day. Anyway, listen, we are going to cover the case. This is going to go to trial. I will say that Bravo curse, they are not beating the charges. Karen Huger, now what, Eddie and Wendy, Michael's lucky they don't do any overseas stuff, because I don't know, everybody's giggling, but at the end of the day, does anybody of real means and something to lose really go on those housewives shows? And again, unless you are wealthy generational money, I have long said that regular money from middle class to upper, you gotta like toe the line. And it looks like that Bravo desperation made Wendy and Eddie toe the line and fast business deals into this. They about to go to jail. Peter in jail. Karen just got out. Oh God. Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.